Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday from Bedford, New York. I am outside my house right now because there's no place else that I can be. I have been I have been crowded out from my house. I actually moved to an outside table here. If anything happens, I get cut off. Someone walks behind me. You see a child running with clothes or without clothes somewhere during this live stream. Um, I apologize, but that's what we're gonna do today. It's really nice to see you all, and thank you again for tuning in. We talked with Peter Chatsky on Thursday night, and the reception and the number of views, I think it was already our most viewed program, and I think it just demonstrates the interest folks have in getting to know each of our candidates. And it is a personal pleasure to get to talk to Cait Conley today, who's joining us on this beautiful Saturday morning, where we're going to talk about election security and disinformation, as well as her path to the nomination, how her campaign is going so far, and what she sees as next steps. Again, for those I haven't met, this is my gratuitous moment of sharing pictures of my kids. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm a Bedford resident, a husband, a father of three, potentially soon after this, a dog owner once again. We'll see. I'm a moderate Democrat, a state health policy expert, a good government advocate across the country, and a board member for many state and national organizations, mostly focused on enterprise design and use of government to improve our healthcare system. The purpose of these interviews, just to remind us, is to engage New Yorkers, whether you're in northern Westchester County, Rockland County, Putnam County, Dutchess County, in the political process, equipping all of us with information about the issues impacting us, our families, our households, our businesses, and help us to identify the best person to represent us come next November. We're going to discuss the issues through this series. We want to always try foster community and stay positive, and really provide a forum for you to meet the candidates. And it's been so exciting to be able to present this policy series through August. As I mentioned on our last live stream a couple of days ago, I didn't expect to do this. This was a one and done attempt at just getting to know the candidates myself, but the demand was there, and so we're through the month of August. We are going to get the opportunity to meet all of our candidates, and Jeremy. I don't know what he's doing, so I'm going to call him out on every single live stream until he makes a decision. But this is the first and last time he'll be on our little policy series picture. My challenge to you through all of this, and I'm going to have this on at the top of every single live stream. This is the moment to get involved. We have tremendous Democratic committees all across the district. That each present opportunities to get involved in your local district, get to know the issues, get to know the candidates, get involved in your local Democratic committee. Pick and support your candidate. I challenge each of you, if you like what you heard on Peter's conversation, if you like what you hear from Cait today, sign up for their emails. They're actually pretty substantive. And I would challenge you to donate $20.26 to every candidate that you think has a chance of getting your vote. This is an opportunity to get engaged and get involved. On the policy issues, know your stuff. It's easy to get caught up in a lot of the media emotional rhetoric, which we'll talk a little bit about today, but facts matter. And then finally, stay positive. I've met all of our candidates, and any single one of them would be a tremendous upgrade and would be greater aligned with what I know to be the values of our district come next year. So it is again a pleasure to be able to bring on Cait Conley, a proud fourth-generation Hudson Valley native. Cait grew up in a working-class family and found her calling to public service after the terror attacks in 9/11. Cait is a decorated combat veteran who served as an operator in elite special operations units and deployed 6 times overseas to hunt down some of the world's most dangerous terrorists in combat zones like Iraq and Afghanistan. Cait spent the last 2 years ensuring the security of our nation's critical infrastructure against physical and cyber threats as part of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, I believe it's called. In that role, she spearheaded the agency's multi-domain election security mission, supporting state and local election offices in all 50 states and territories. We're going to talk about this agency and the current budget threats to this agency during today's conversation. Prior to joining CISA, Cait served as the Director of Counterterrorism on the National Security Council, where she led policy efforts to counter threats around the globe, as well as domestically. Cait previously served as the Executive Director of the bipartisan Defending Digital Democracy Project out of Harvard University. In addition to being a graduate of West Point, Cait also holds master's degrees in Business Administration and Public Policy from MIT and Harvard. So I'm done with that. I'm going to bring Cait up right now. Cait, how are you? Oh, I have you on mute. How are you?
I'm doing great. Better now that the bio part is over. That's always the most awkward piece. And also, I'd be a little bit better if the puppy was here now. Yeah, I feel a little cheated. In our email exchange, I was hoping the puppy would make its debut and appearance. So if it happens and we do this again, I think I'm just coming to you and we can sit at the table outside, puppy in hand.
Deal.
Because I feel like with everything going on right now, a puppy is like an emotional support that everyone would welcome.
You know, I know objectively this is going to be a very bad decision, but I also think that we need to celebrate and find joy in every corner of the world that we can right now. And speaking of which, can I do this? Can I detect? Happy birthday, Mike Sachs.
Happy birthday, Mike.
I don't know how old Mike is, but his youthful spirit, I think, just energizes us all throughout this campaign, and we wanted to take a special moment to wish him happy birthday. So there's a lot to discuss, Cait. But like, how is the when we met last time? I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks. I have no idea of time. You were just like kind of really getting into the meat of the campaign, but like, gosh, like I'm seeing you everywhere, national news, local news. How's the campaign going?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, to your point, I feel like, a week feels like a year in terms of just what we're trying to do and to be out there, to be present, to listen, to engage with folks, and to really just try to build that trust and connectivity now, because it takes time. We talked about this last time, but when folks go into their polling location in November and they're casting their vote on the ballot, they're essentially picking the person that they trust is going to do the best thing for their family. Even if they don't agree with every policy position, it's about trust and the fact that they're going to choose this person in order for us to win New York 17 over political party, right? And so, I mean, that hard work, that's what fuels me every single day. And so we just finished up our first full campaign quarter. And yeah, I am incredibly proud of the team we are building, the supporters that are out there that are helping lift us up and helping enable us to be out and to meet with people. And certainly, this is a fight that we're going to continue every day to push as hard as we can until next November, because the stakes are too high. Failure is not an option. So when it comes to hard work, all in.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a pretty astounding quarter when it comes to like just the fundraising numbers, right? I mean, I'm looking at this. I just pulled this morning from the FEC. Cash on hand, $613,000 already. Total receipts, 815. I mean, you had a bonanza quarter. I think you might have raised the most out of any candidate. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we raised $480,000 last quarter. That was not just the highest out of the primary field here. I think the next closest we beat by $120,000, but I was the 9th highest Democratic challenger in the country in terms of fundraising. And I think what's so special and important about that is, look, I come from a working class family and I've been a lifelong public servant. I can't self-fund. I can't cut myself 6-figure checks and say, this is how we're going to do it. I have to win and fuel this fight by winning people over. And getting them invested in the future of New York 17. And so I think that's what's just been so incredible too, is the amount of people who are like, I'm all in on this fight. Let's go, And so I feel truly honored and privileged for the level of support we're getting, and just look forward to continuing to making people proud and how we start to win.
And it's getting national attention. I mean, Politico called this up, like you brought in $472,000 this quarter, and it came not just from the district, but from around the country, right?
Yeah. And so I think this is probably one of the most important things, right? I am in this to win this.
Mhm.
We need to beat Mike Lawler. And when you look at the war chest that Lawler is building, this is going to be hard. This we can't sugarcoat this, right? Like I'm a realist. I'm a battle tested leader that knows you don't get to ignore the unpleasant realities. You have to
Yeah,
face them. And the reality is Mike Lawler is raising a ton of money.
yeah,
And you just saw last month, I'm
yeah,
sorry, in June, he attended a dinner with Speaker Johnson and walked out with a $200,000 check,
yeah,
right? In one night.
yeah.
And so this goes back to this is a fight that has national significance,
Hmm.
that Mike Lawler is getting national support in order to him try to win. And so I believe that just like as a member of Congress, it would be my responsibility to bring resources back to this district. I believe as a candidate,
Hmm.
it is my responsibility to bring resources to this district to help us fight and win.
Hmm.
Because we're doing this not just for New York 17, we're doing this for America to take
Hmm.
back the House.
Hmm.
And the reality is, if we don't do this, Mike Lawler already is. And
Yeah,
so we can't let him pull away. We've got to have equally robust war chests to go to town and to make sure that we reach voters leading into next November. And we fight back. And
yeah.
I think that's what I'm really proud of with our team too is, we're not letting him get away with the BS he's doing. What this money is going to is fueling the team where every single day we are looking to hold him accountable for
Hmm.
the lies and the disinformation that he is spewing to mislead voters. And so, yeah, getting out there, being present, fighting back,
Hmm.
that's what we're focused on. And I
Yeah.
believe it is my job to secure the resources to get that done.
Yeah. And so you're raising dollars in the district, you're everywhere in the district. I want to talk about some of the events you've been holding in the district and also some of the social media, which has also been getting national attention. But when I'm going to talk about one of the other things that like Politico said was not only that you're kind of raising dollars, and there seemed to be a question of like where those dollars are coming from, and it is coming from both national and local sources, but also like what is your longstanding history in this district? You're like you moved here in January. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um, so I think this is a funny question in some ways because it's like when you talk about who in this race
Hmm.
was born and raised in the Hudson Valley,
Hmm.
it's me and Mike Lawler.
Hmm.
When it comes to who actually understands, and I think this is the important question,
Hmm.
the struggles of working class families and working class Americans, it doesn't get more real than this.
Hmm.
Again, my family in this district goes back 4 generations, right?
Hmm.
My great grandfather and grandfather, they worked the brickyards outside of Montrose.
Hmm.
My mom was born in this district. My dad was born in this district. My family, like I spent summers swimming in the Hudson River off of the Peekskill Yacht Club. And I'll use that in parentheses because anyone knows the yacht club. There's no yacht club. Like literally fishing and eating the fish at the Hudson before we knew about the PCBs. Yeah, I was there standing in line to get tickets to the Hudson Valley Renegades inaugural season. Like, I love
Hmm.
this area. This is my home and this is my community.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I have been gone. I think when we talk about post high school, I went to war for this country after 9/11 because I believe that was my calling to serve. And my country needed me. That's why I went to West Point. It's funny, but I drove by Camp Smith 2 nights ago. And that was actually where I learned how to rappel from helicopters. I went to air assault school at Camp Smith, right? And you just talk about the start of this career where, yes, I left home for 18 years to serve this country. I went to war instead of Westchester. I would love to have been home with my family on the holidays. I would love to have had that kind of life and comfort, but I chose to serve. And so now that I'm starting this next chapter of service and I actually control where I live, of course I came home. My partner and I were looking to start our family and to
Hmm.
build our future. And so this is what I am fighting for. I'm fighting for the families of the Hudson Valley
Hmm.
who are struggling every day to get by.
Hmm.
I'm fighting for the families of the Hudson Valley that are worried about their kids and their futures. Like, I am a product of the American dream here. Neither of my parents graduated from college. I got to go to West Point, Harvard, and MIT because this is America. And when I was growing up, that was real. I'm
Yeah.
a product of Hudson Valley Public Schools.
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think, look, is the question, do I get what it's like for struggling families here in the Hudson Valley? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did I have to try to find change, 50 cents so my mom could buy a coffee on our way to work at the local deli growing up? Yeah. Do I understand that the Hudson Valley families here deserve better? And will that be what fires me up every day? Is that going to be what I fight for? Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to why we do this, I do believe America's best days are still ahead of us, Kev. We have so much work to do to make that real.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who has seen the rest of the country, as someone who has traveled the world, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about critical infrastructure, but I will tell you, the Hudson Valley is not ahead. We're falling behind. And that should be unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm doing this, because I want every kid in the Hudson Valley to have the same opportunities that I did. And I don't think that's real today.
Yeah. And so your connections, and your connections to NY17 and the Hudson Valley, it's cultural, it's historical, it's the roots are the same, and it's less about a line drawn on a map.
Yeah, and I get it. I went to serve my country to places like I'd rather have been in Bedford than Baghdad. Yeah, but the reality is we step up when our country needs us to. And that's why I'm doing this now. It's the same values that I learned here.
Yeah. And like many of the institutions you've been a part of, like you mentioned, West Point and Harvard and MIT, and even we'll talk a little bit about like the agencies that you previously served in. Those are under attack. You've recently come under attack from the national media. But like the reps with Real Talk, I thought this was just like a fun way to get to know folks, but it became a bit of a national sensation.
I can't get over this. So this is just fun. I know they're scared when we're not even a year out from November, and I get not one but 2 hits on Fox News in one day.
Look at this one, like no pain and no gain. The Dems hit the gym in pathetic attempt to win back voters.
I think Kellyanne Conway saying something's pathetic is real rich. But this just goes back to, honestly, Kev, I think they are scared because they know we're coming, right? And they know change is coming and that people want it. And yeah, I am proud to be part of this force that's trying to rebrand the Democratic Party as one that is pragmatic, that is focused on results, that's not afraid to fight and do the hard work. That's what America deserves.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the American people want, regardless of how they register to vote.
And that's what I've seen you kind of talking to through your coffee chats and the events through the district. You're really trying to get to know people and actually show them a different, better way forward. And through the district, it's not just you kind of sharing more about yourself. Like I know that you're hearing a lot about the issues that are confronting folks on a day-to-day basis. Like what issues are you hearing about? And then I would love to talk about disinformation and election security, which like you've convinced me is a pervasive issue and one that we all need to be concerned about.
So, I think the Army taught me something, and they teach young commanders and leaders this. When you first take over a unit, your first 90 days, you should never make a big decision. You should sit and listen, right? Hear, learn, understand what people are going through, understand the challenges that an organization is facing. And I think that principle of, look, come in and listen, like that stuck with me my whole life. Because your job as a leader, whether it's as a member of Congress fighting for people or whether it's a company commander fighting for your soldiers, is to figure out where are their pain points that keep them from being able to achieve their mission, right?
Yeah.
That get in their way. And to go to those points of friction and solve them. And I think for everybody here in the Hudson Valley, like for families, the mission is shared. It's, I want to put a roof over the head of my family. I want to put food on the table. And I want to give my kids a better future. And that's their mission. And so I believe it is our responsibility to hear that And as a member of Congress, it would be mine to try to make that mission successful and get those obstacles in the way out. And so, to your point of what are we hearing around the district, man, it's heartbreaking in some of it. You hear about public schools that when I was growing up and we'd play soccer, schools that were top rated in New York State that are now some of the lowest rated.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about families who their kids are like me. They're like ready to start a family. They want to be home, so
Mm-hmm.
their family's there to support them, and they can't afford to,
Mm-hmm.
or they can't find a job that's going to enable them the means to be able to live here. You've got families who just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to send their kids to college, and now their kids can't find a job, you know? And so these are real struggles. Things haven't gotten
That can tear families apart or keep them apart,
yeah.
right? Last
Like
time you mentioned like people can't move back because they can't afford to move back. Kids.
it is the fact that economic conditions are keeping families apart in the Hudson Valley should be unacceptable. And that's the reality of what we're seeing. And so this goes back to why we must do better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about showing up. I hear Mike Lawler is everywhere, right? He keeps showing up. Congrats, Mike. Why don't you deliver?
Mm-hmm.
Showing up is not the same as delivering. And I haven't heard a single family tell me that their life has been better since he was elected in 2022.
I would agree with that. So when we talk about like some of these bigger picture issues, particularly ones where you bring unparalleled subject matter expertise, election security and disinformation. What is disinformation and why should we be concerned about it?
Yeah. And so to your point, my last 2 years as a public servant, as a senior exec civilian, it was trying to keep our homeland critical infrastructure secure.
Mm-hmm.
And that means both resiliency, because you're facing things like climate change and really disastrous impacts in terms of, in many cases, you see it in the Hudson Valley. I mean, the rain last week,
Mm-hmm.
how many areas got flooded out?
This wasn't the way, like I remember growing up. I didn't grow up far from here, like where you would have just these storms every month that would deliver inches of rain. And it would just be a regular occurrence.
This is not the same. And I think that goes back to not only have we not invested to update our infrastructure over the last several decades, but now compounding that is the fact that we have extreme climate factors that are going to make the inadequacy of our infrastructure even more painful for people.
Mm-hmm.
People are losing their homes here because of new flooding patterns, because we don't have the infrastructure to divert the increasing amounts of precipitation we're receiving. You talk to towns, they don't have the sewage or water infrastructure to grow and build.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about the future of this Hudson Valley, like we have to invest in infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming out of 2016, taking this back to the election side, when we talk about critical infrastructure, it's everything from the water we drink to the energy that powers our homes and our offices to the election systems that underpin our democratic process.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming out of 2016, when Russia tried to influence and interfere in the 2016 presidential election, ironically, it was under Donald Trump's first term that election infrastructure was designated as critical infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And that was correct
Mm-hmm.
because we had foreign adversaries posing a national security threat to American democracy and the integrity and security of that process, which is the core of who we are. And so what you ended up seeing was an investment by the federal government on top of what had been previously done to help state and local election officials who are constitutionally charged with administering elections, help them secure against the physical and cyber threats that are presented. And that includes the threat of disinformation by our foreign adversaries or domestic criminals.
So what is disinformation? Like, to give people an example.
So disinformation is actually a military tactic, right, in influence operations, where someone deliberately uses false information to try to influence or affect behavior or perception. And in this case, national security related things like elections. So some examples of how we saw disinformation from our foreign adversaries last year in the 2024 cycle. In the days leading up to November, the general election, we started to see videos pop up. And they weren't generative AI videos. They were like first person style recorded videos with real people where they're displaying different scenarios in battleground states. So, for example, the first video we saw was in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where there was allegedly election officials who were setting Trump ballots on fire. We saw another one in Georgia where an immigrant alleged he had voted at multiple locations in Georgia, right? Which is illegal. There was another one in Arizona where a former staffer claimed that the Secretary of State, who's the chief election official for that state, was acting in a manner to rig the election. It turns out Russia was behind every one of those videos. They staged them, they filmed them.
They said that they don't do this.
Yeah, that's cute. And so you saw Russia staging videos. And again, they're smart, right?
Yeah.
They know that the most contested areas are going to be the battleground states.
Mm-hmm.
And they know what societal issues to focus on that are going to be inflammatory. Because what is really important for every American to know is that whether it's China, Russia, Iran, the adversary, they share two goals. One, they want to undermine the American people's confidence in the security and integrity of elections. And two, they want to stoke partisan discord, because the more broken we are, the more vulnerable we are, and the less effective we are at pushing back on them. And so you really saw, I mean, think about it, stoking the distrust of election officials that are trying to rig something for Trump after Trump was claiming 2020 was rigged in Pennsylvania, a battleground state.
Yeah.
Playing on the fears over immigrants voting in a federal election when they're not citizens, right? Like, I mean, they just stoked these things that were deliberate to foment more discord.
So can I ask you a question? Like this, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, how do we break the cycle? Because all of this breeds distrust in media, in experts, in facts. How do you bring people back to like, this is what's going on, this is the problem, this is who's driving it, this is how we fix it? Like, how do we bring people back to the solutions?
So when I was traveling the country, I think one thing that was so important that I heard, people trust their local officials. They distrust like the national and people in other places. But they almost always, without fail, trusted their locals. And so I think to your point, this is about empowering local officials to be transparent, to engage with people, to show people what the process is in order to maintain their trust. And I think some of this is also educating. And that's why I'm grateful we're having this conversation today, because I think this is part of it. When you look at the science of disinformation, it has been proven that debunking a claim, so basically trying to correct the record, is highly ineffective compared to pre-bunking. So I will tell you, one of the things we did last year when I was at CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security.
CISA.
I know it's the longest.
I got it now, though.
Yeah, no, but CISA and the FBI, we partnered together to put out these public service announcements where we were telling people what tactics to expect from Iran, from China, from Russia, and giving examples. So one of the craziest things I think we saw at scale last year, Russia and Iran did this. They would essentially take legitimate news sites, as well as create ones that seemed legitimate, but like the Washington Post, Fox News. They would create a fake version of that website that you wouldn't necessarily notice unless you really looked at the URL and like the full address. They would make a shortened URL so you wouldn't even see the full thing to click the link to go to. And it would look like the real one. It would look like the real Washington Post site or the real Fox News site.
Yeah.
But instead, they were filled with fake articles that were, again, pushing all of this disinformation. And so when you talk about the complexity of what we are seeing and creating these fake personas, right, and these fake sites and trying to convince people, it's really pretty elaborate what we're seeing our foreign adversaries use. And that's even before really harnessing generative AI.
Yeah. And so what is the role of government in combating that? Because like I think we all would agree that there's this balance between like, how do you protect free speech, and you don't want to censor free speech, and protect against purposeful tactics by foreign adversaries to mislead and sow distrust in one another and our system.
And I think that is so important, right? Is we're focusing on, I believe the federal government should be unwavering in its commitment to ensure that foreign adversaries don't influence our domestic elections.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that, we did was not only try to tell the American people about what's going on so they could be informed, right? So they can make their own decisions. And when something seemed off, they knew like why or what.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I mean, back when the DOJ was focused on actual national security issues and the
Mm-hmm.
FBI was doing things that wasn't going after, like, I don't know, political opponents, but actual foreign adversaries, we would do things like take down botnets that were empowering some of these social media campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they would push these sites out, they would then use all these fake profiles to amplify them, to comment on them, to push them,
Yeah.
to distribute them. And then we were exposing it, right? Like we were saying, look, we've connected this back to Russian agents.
Mm-hmm.
And even domestically, though, I mean, you remember the Biden robocall in January
Mm-hmm.
of last
Mm-hmm.
year.
Yep.
I mean, that was a domestic actor who deliberately was taking action that could jeopardize a person's ability to vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a criminal activity when you do something to interfere with the time, place, or manner of voting, because that's taking away someone's access or right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so you saw criminal, again, conduct and then criminal consequence coming out of the state of New Hampshire. And, a tremendous credit to the New Hampshire Secretary of State and New Hampshire Attorney General, who acted very quickly when that occurred. But to your point, like, America is all about free speech, right? The First Amendment.
Yeah.
When you conduct criminal activity or when you have
Mm-hmm.
a foreign adversary that is coming after American democracy,
Mm-hmm.
the federal government has a responsibility to act.
So, since President Trump took office, he has focused on, and his administration has focused on CISA and many similar agencies and cutting funding for them. Immediately after the election, 18 employees were put on leave. In a May letter to the Senate, the Trump administration proposed further sweeping budgetary cuts to the agency and noted this. The budget eliminates programs focused on so-called misinformation and propaganda, as well as external engagement offices such as international affairs. These programs and offices were used as a hub in the censorship industrial complex, which is the first time I've heard that, to violate the First Amendment, target Americans for protected speech, and target the president. This is coming from an OMB letter. CISA was more focused on censorship than on protecting the nation's critical systems and put them at risk due to poor management and inefficiency, as well as a focus on self-promotion. My question is twofold. Like, what is the administration's goal in doing this? And why is Representative Lawler, who very much publicly considers himself an international subject matter expert, not saying a word about the administration's targeting of some of our nation's critical infrastructure here?
I think this goes back to when we say the stakes could not be higher. I mean, I actually believe it this time when I hear it. And what I think so much of this, like, it makes me just literally to my core, upset and angry and concerned, is the fact that I feel like we are losing the America that we love. And an example of that is an administration that is unprecedented in their weaponization of the executive branch to persecute their political opposition. All of this disinformation BS is because Donald Trump was upset in 2020 that CISA wouldn't go along with his lie that the election was rigged, because it wasn't. He lost. Stop being a sore loser. Like, be a grown up and have some integrity. But instead, he's actually gone after. So Chris Krebs, who was the director of CISA in 2020, who was like, no, this is a lie. We're not going to endorse that. We're going to support the election officials who are actually on the ground, who stood by the security and integrity of the process. And the outcome of the election did reflect the will of the American people. Donald Trump, when he comes back into office in 2025, issues an executive order sticking the DOJ on Chris Krebs and his employer to punish him for, again, not going along with his lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just one example of what we continue to see with this administration, which is they don't give a shit about America.
Mm-hmm.
They care about themselves. They don't have any standards for integrity or honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Mike Lawler in any way is standing by and enabling this
Mm-hmm.
is unacceptable. And now the latest thing we see is Mike Lawler using some of these tactics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Like, this is outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you use tactics that our foreign adversaries are employing against the people you are charged with representing? Like, this is not okay. It's just not okay.
It's not okay. And we've heard this through several election cycles now, but this is the first time I feel like a line, a Rubicon has been crossed where our institutions are very much at stake. Another example, the Bureau of Labor Statistics director, I believe, was dismissed because the president did not like the numbers that were published. Our federal statistical system, how we understand how our country is operating, it is now going to be suspect, because if you put out numbers at the president that might displease the president, you could lose your job and your livelihood, the ability to support your family. And this is the number of threats to our institutions are significant.
And I think, Kevin, you hit the nail on the head, right? It's like, how do people know what to trust? Here you have the Bureau of Labor, that's supposed to be this independent entity, and a commissioner who is just doing their job, which is putting out the factual numbers about how many jobs were created in July, or excuse me, in June. And yeah, the report was bad because the state of the economy is bad. And that is because of Donald Trump and the pursuits of this administration, which have nothing to do with the best interest of America and everything to do with his random whims, and Congress failing to do their job. So this goes back to, what does that mean for people here? So the Canadian Chamber of Commerce came out a few weeks ago with the statement talking about how we can expect the average cost of constructing an American home in 2027 to go up by $14,000. Not for anything better or any improvements or a larger construction. Literally, the same price go up by $14,000 in less than 2 years because of the impacts of tariffs on material goods. So when we talk about Hudson Valley struggles and what I'm hearing from folks, the fact that we don't have enough affordable housing is like the number one issue I hear everywhere. I don't care what county I'm in, from Southern Dutchess to Putnam to Northern Westchester to Rockland, affordable housing. That is not helping make affordable housing more available. And so this is, again, where I think we have to call out what is actually happening so people understand how the issues at their kitchen table are only getting worse under this administration, not better.
Absolutely.
And Lawler is enabling it.
And so I think you've been talking about and really representing many of the issues that folks are feeling locally, as well as folks are feeling about the state of our country and the dangers that we are confronting together. So we're fortunate to have a terrific field of candidates, and I'm just so thankful that you're one of them and came home to run. What do you see as your differentiating characteristics, and where do you go from here? What are you thinking about come the fall campaign season?
So I think the responsibility of the candidates, right? Like, the case I need to make is twofold that all of us need to make. One, why we are the best candidate to beat Mike Lawler, because that's going to be hard. And two, why we are the best person to do the job on day one. And I think this goes back to the stakes are too high. We can't afford to do on-the-job training with our member when they get in there. We're going to have to start day one fighting back against this administration and undoing the harm. Going back to this one big beautiful bill where so many of the Medicaid, Medicare-oriented cuts are focused on taking effect in 2027, right? Because they don't want to pay the consequences.
Politically convenient.
Yeah. I mean, but this goes back to, we need to try to stop the bleeding, right? We've got a Band-Aid over a bullet wound and we need a tourniquet in surgery. And so we don't have time to get in there in January of 2027 and figure stuff out. We've got to go. And I will argue that I don't believe that the Hudson Valley has actually had someone delivering for the Hudson Valley here in New York 17 in a long time.
In a long time.
Again, my last job at CISA, so a lot of election security. But Kevin, I also got to see critical infrastructure across this country and work on the cybersecurity and the resilience of it. And I've seen how other areas of this country are building new infrastructure, creating new jobs, setting themselves up for the future, not just dealing with the past. And I will tell you, that is not the state of affairs in the Hudson Valley. We are behind places I've seen, and that should be unacceptable. And so this goes into, I think, most important in this decision is also who is your best athlete to go into the halls of Congress on day one and get things done, right? And I think this is the case where, in addition to serving, to going to West Point and Harvard and MIT and 16 years of service and 6 tours, 2 years at the White House as the Director for Counterterrorism, I've also spent 4 years working with congressional committees and members of Congress. I've already written federal legislation. I've reviewed budgets. Like, I can do this job on day one for this community and do it well. And we need that because we have so much work to do when we get there. And again, a lot of this is because Mike Lawler has failed to uphold his responsibilities to these communities. And so, we are really focused on those 2 cases. I'm going to every corner of this district, as you talked about. Like, I mean, we are hitting everywhere to try to win
coffee.
All of them. Yeah. More caffeine in my veins than I've had in my life. Loving it. But it's just like, I think this comes down to the math. And the reality is, when you look at New York 17, the Democratic Party has not won this district since it was redistricted in 2021. And it's not because it's not winnable. It's because for a Democrat to win, you have to win more than just Democratic voters. You have to win the 28% independent unaffiliated voters who are out there. You have to win over some Republicans who do believe in this country and are willing to put a person over party. And so I think that is what the story is about: doing the hard work, making the case, getting people to trust you that it's not about party. It's about doing the right thing and our future,
If people want to get involved with Cait Conley for Congress, how do they do that?
We're a fun time. If nothing else, I promise we'll have some laughs and good conversation. Please hit us up at info@caitconley.com. It's on the website. We would love to come out, meet your friends, meet you, and do things to just, again, engage with the community. Because as we talked about, the stakes could not be higher. And failure's not an option. So let's get this done.
And lots of coffee with Cait across the district. And this is where this is being recorded on October 2nd. Tomorrow, if you're around and watching this and you're near Cold Spring, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Cold Spring Coffee House.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Cait, thank you so much for taking the time to come on a Saturday morning to join me and talk about disinformation, election security, all the issues we're facing, and how our congressman is not serving us in New York 17, and how we're going to change that next year. Thank you for taking the time.
New York forward. Let's go, Kev.
New York forward. Talk soon. Guys, thank you all for taking the time today. Thank you again to Cait for joining. This is the second in our series. Apparently, there's no summer vacation plans for us, or maybe you'll come with me. We talk with Peter on Thursday, Cait today. Next Saturday, we're going to talk with Beth Davidson, and then birthday boy Mike Sachs the following week, Effie, John, Jeremy, Jessica to close out the summer. And as we head towards fall, things are going to heat up. And I am just so privileged to be able to speak to the candidates on your behalf. Keep sending me questions. I'll keep trying to represent them. Thank you for your participation, all that you do. And everyone, have a great weekend in the Hudson Valley. Talk soon.